Hello travelers, Boardman21 here, and today got an updated version of the Autobomber, which has some changes to a couple of the skill trees and to some of the passives. A lot of people have been asking for an update to this build. I want you all guys to know that it still does incredibly well in the end game. You can still clear just everything by walking through the maps. It does not require any uniques, although there are some uniques that you can use. It definitely has a much higher ceiling. There are still some things that I would love to put on this, just as like the Ravenous Void gloves, because it would give a ton more health and survivability as long as damage reduction, which would be huge for it. It still can go through 100 corruption, absolutely no problem. It can clear tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 bosses, although I've yet to defeat the tier 4 boss with it, but I think if we had the Ravenous Void gloves, it would be able to do it. However, time will tell. We're still farming for those. And the build playstyle is the exact same. This is the shield rushing Autobomber version, and basically a lot of the damage in the Devouring Orb tree, you do have about one less orb than you were able to have last patch, but they hit for so much more damage, especially the new way that we've built the tree, that you actually clear single targets much quicker, and you can still clear AoE just as well. It'll still just walk through them and they all die, and single target is just obliterated. So let's go ahead and get into skills, the interactions, what's changed, and just how it all works. For skills, I'm running Anomaly, Shield Rush, Smite, Devouring Orb, and Sigils of Hope. For Anomaly, we have this set up the same way. We've got 1 point in Void Touch, 1 point in Time Bubble, 5 points in Decimation. We want as much critical strike chance and spell critical strike chance as possible, as it'll really boost your damage. 5 points in Temporal Mastery, 1 point in Lingering Memory, 1 point in Time Lord, 1 point in Manipulation, 2 points in Time Eater, and 3 points in Void Maul. If you're not having any problems with mana, and you'd like to have more Devouring Orbs, you can put 3 points in Swift Rest and reduce the cooldown a bit so that you can actually cast the orbs a bit quicker. Instead of every 4 seconds, it'll be about every 3.3. You will get a whole extra orb for doing that, but again, it will take a little bit more of your mana, so be careful. For Shield Rush, we have 11 points in here. All you need is the 2 points in Consuming Path and 1 point in Dark Rush, so you don't even have to have a shield, so you can use it. Then we have 6 points in Rush Mastery, so it takes less mana, and 2 points in Protective Speed, so while you're rushing, you take less damage. The last 9 points, you can literally put anywhere in the tree. It doesn't matter. For Smite, we have this set up for a whole bunch of damage when we're manually casting it. We've got 3 points in Pillars of Light for that double cast chance, 5 points in Sacrifice for 250% more damage, 5 points in Atonement so it doesn't cost health, 4 points in Conviction for that base crit chance so that we have 100% crit with Smite, and 3 points in Deep Impact for that critical strike multiplier. Since we're doing 100% crit, critical strike multiplier for it is really nice. For Devouring Orb, this is the skill tree that has changed, so this is the new way that I have it set up. We got 1 point in Dark Moon, 1 point in Abyssal Rush, 1 point in Cosmic Impact, 2 points in Extinction instead of 5. We don't have any points in Sightless Star, 4 points in Rift Caller for Void Pen with all of the things included in the tree, which helps them. It's basically a more damage modifier, which is huge for it. 4 points in World Watch for that duration increase. This will help you to get a third Devouring Orb out there. It depends on how many times you echo, but this basically allows you to have 1 extra orb at all times by getting that 20% duration. 1 point in Void Adept, 1 point in Hollowing Orb, 1 point in Abyssal Emission, and 4 points in Dark Turret. And then for Sigils of Hope, we have this for all that added flat void damage as well as armor. We got 5 points in Iron Sigils, 5 points in Enduring Hope, 1 point in Tetragram, 4 points in Empowering Sigils, 3 points in Decree of Flame, 1 point in Sigils of Despair, so it's all converted to void, and then 1 point in Last Wish, as we don't really manually cast it unless we're going up against a boss. And this will give us a chance to summon every time that we have a kill on the map. We'll have a 6% chance. Usually on echoes, this will keep you at 3 or 4 the whole time once you start getting some kills. For passives, I have 23 points in the Sentinel base class with 5 points in Juggernaut, 8 points in Fearless, 5 points in Armor and Clad, so we take that 10% less damage from nearby enemies, and 5 points in Time and Faith, so we gain health and mana when we directly use Smite, which will do a lot. We have 15 points in the Paladin with 8 points in Defiance, 2 points in Valor, and 5 points in Blinding Light. And then for the Void Knight with 75 points, we have 5 points in Abyssal Endurance, 6 points in Temporal Corruption, 6 points in World Eater, 1 point in Void Corruption, 8 points in Void Bolts, 5 points in Renouncement, 10 points in Eternal Form, 5 points in Echoing Strikes, 10 points in Time Legion, 1 point in Avatar of Regret, 15 points in Dread, and 3 points in Void Aegis. So there's a chance to get that Void Aegis when you get hit. This will just help you take a little less damage. You'll take 10% reduced damage. Of course, it breaks after 100 damage taken, but it is nice to have it on. It's just a little extra survivability. For items, idols, uniques, and blessings, these are almost the exact same as they have been. We still have on a weapon, we found a tier 7 horned staff with void damage. Now, while you don't want the minion spell damage and the freeze rate, the fact that we got tier 7 increased void damage was huge for the build, and we managed to put on tier 5 increased spell critical strike chance, which was huge. For the chest, you want as much vitality and health as possible. For the helm, same thing. We haven't found a helm that had a tier 7 rule of vitality yet, but when we do, that's going to be one of the best helms you get, especially if you get on the base with increased void damage. This one's only got tier 1 health, but it does have tier 5 increased health, and then tier 4 increased of void damage, which is pretty big. And then we have a bone amulet to help cover some of our defenses. This one's also got increased spell crit, physical penetration. We would rather have a void penetration. It would be much better. Definitely going to try and chance it and rework that. The necrotic resist is all right. Everything else, we've got critical strike avoidance and basically as much health or void damage or resistance that you need as possible. We are trying to stack as much life as possible in the whole thing, and we have a little bit of mana regen. You don't need very much. And for idols, we went with as much vitality as you can get. Just stack vitality everywhere. Try and cover your resistances at the same time, as you won't be building too much onto it. We do have a nice 1x4 that has a ton of vitality, the max roll. It also came with chance to slow for void skills, which keeps the enemies behind us and allows us to kind of hit them from range, which is really nice. This doesn't require any uniques, and for blessings, some of the blessings we have is extra endurance, and we have the spell damage leached as health. After that, it doesn't matter what else you do. You can go increased armor. You can basically get anything that you want. If you can get void resistance shred on hit, that'll be another big one for you, as it will be a straight up damage multiplier, which would be nice, but we haven't got that into our arsenal yet. For the character sheet, you can see we have almost 3,800 health. My goal is to try and get to 4,000. If we find the Ravenous Void Gloves, we will hit that. Or if we find one more idol that has a max roll vitality instead of a low roll, we'll get even closer with that. For our resistance, we are a little shy on Void, but it's the Poison, Cold, and Fire that we're still working on. Still trying to figure out a way to get that onto the gear so that we can get that covered, but for the most part, we're doing okay. Our survivability is pretty good. You can do empowered content, no problem. However, like I said, until we cap these out and work on a little bit more defense and getting some damage reduction, preferably with the Ravenous Void Gloves, we're not going to be able to defeat the tier 4 boss, or at least I haven't been able to yet. We keep getting one shot. We might switch to like the Bastion of Honor or something later, but right now this is the setup that we have. For damage, we have just over 600% void damage. For defense, we have capped CSA and almost capped endurance. We are trying to get that last 6%, and getting our endurance threshold up a little bit would be nice. I'm also trying to get more armor. There are 2 blessings for armor. I do want to get the increased and the flat armor blessings, which would allow us to get probably closer to about 35% damage reduction here, which would really be nice for tier 4 bossing as well. And we try, if we throw a shield on, to try and get some increased armor that way. We're trying to get some uniques that have increased stats for us. If we can get a sealed affix on any of our items, like all of our exalted items, I would love to get a sealed affix and throw in a 5th one. That would be, like, sealed items is probably the way that we're going to end up getting the Void, Cold, and Fire, as well as some additional armor. So that's kind of what we're aiming for, but we haven't found anything perfect yet that we could seal and try and do that. But another build guide will come out once we've min-maxed it quite a bit more. Now, for how to play this build, all I do is put Devouring Orb and Anomaly on autocast, and that's all you have to do. You can manually cast some sigils if you want, but you just cast Smite at the target, get your sigils up, and you can see here, all you do is you walk around. The Devouring Orbs are going to hit things. Smite's doing about 50,000 damage hit. You can see the Devouring Orbs, when they're hitting, they're doing about 20k hits, which is crazy. You can see they crit for about 60k, which is absolutely crazy damage. They hit really, really hard now, which is really amazing. And then, of course, you have the Smite on top of that for single targets. So between the 2 of them, you can just absolutely annihilate things. And remember, there's no time rifts really going off right here. There'd be more if you're actually killing enemies around them. And that's when you clear the whole maps really, really quick. But that's it for the build guide. That's it for this guide altogether. Again, we have a 1 to 75 leveling guide. If you want to level it, that will be linked in the build planner as usual. There'll be an updated loot filter for you. And again, hope you enjoyed it. Stay safe and enjoy some gameplay.